Giant insects have invaded Japan. These flying monsters have turned Tokyo into a ghost town in less than 24 hours. Humanity has only one hope, a team of 5 deadly android soldiers, as beautiful as they are lethal. Released in 2002, Combat Queen takes the form of an FMV-based rail shooter, in the grand tradition of interactive films that were once released on 3DO or Mega CD. You know, those games that seemed like the future when they came out, but now likely represent one of the most reviled genres in video game history. Even by 2002, these productions appeared to have faded into obscurity, following the commercial failures that most of them had suffered. However, strangely, Taito attempted to resurrect them by utilizing the DVD format. Combat Queen could rely on its cast, composed of 5 idols. Let's not beat around the bush. Taito's title has all the characteristics of a video game guilty pleasure that we like to savor from time to time. We find ourselves in Combat Queen, a Taito game released in 2002 on the PS2, a game that was already outdated when it was released. It represents a genre that had its heyday during the 16 to 32-bit console generation but quickly fell into obscurity, and perhaps rightly so. It's true that these games were based on the exploitation of a new format, the CD-ROM, and they were often characterized by approximate controls, low budget and mediocre production. The scenario is quite grotesque, telling the story of the invasion of Japan by genetically modified insects, and female androids are supposed to fight them because, I quote, "they have a more resilient nervous system than men." I don't know if there's any underlying meaning behind this, but everyone will interpret it as they wish. The game's story is laughable, but as you'll have understood, it's a pretext to ogle Japanese idols, who, by the way, are particularly bad actresses, but that's part of the job description. Just like the low-budget production and special effects. The game offers 2 types of phases, rail shooter phases, in which the controls are particularly simplistic. The movement of the reticle and shooting is done using the analog stick or the directional buttons. The movement of the reticle on the screen is particularly sensitive, perhaps too much so. You can see that there are 2 gauges, a red one and a blue one, corresponding to your health and your ammunition. You can also charge your shots for a burst, which is certainly satisfying but ammo intensive. The management of ammunition is the main difficulty of the game. It runs out very quickly, which is a result of the overly sensitive reticle movement. Fortunately, you can switch your health to ammunition and vice versa by pressing pause. I'm exaggerating a bit when I say that this gives it a tactical aspect, but there's an element of that. At the end of each level, you can recover health based on the number of enemies killed. As you will have understood, the gameplay in these phases is not very interesting, primarily because the game is not playable with a light gun, which is a shame. Moreover, the enemies are particularly redundant. They are always some kind of cockroach, with a few exceptions. For the moment, I haven't been able to try other types of shots, they're always the same. Of course, the game focuses on immersion by mixing gameplay scenes with cinematic sequences, where we see girls dressed in cosplay, driving a pink Jeep. Obviously, we don't believe it for a second. These poor girls are absolutely not credible as soldiers, but we don't hold it against them, and that's not what we expect from them. For the record, the transition between gameplay sequences and cinematics is completely smooth. There is certainly a slight break, but it is well done. There are no loading times. Of course, there is a plot that I tried to translate for you, but it doesn't really shine in terms of quality. Special mention for 2 sequences that particularly amused me, one where we have to shoot while the driver is clearly drunk. Zigzags, tire screeches, nothing is right. And this one that is meant to be particularly dramatic. Of course, we don't care much, and that's actually a quality in this kind of game, because once again, if the gameplay had been good, we would have easily tolerated the lack of taste. Of course, we could also make fun of the special effects, but it's worth remembering that it's a video game and that it doesn't have the budget of a movie. What I haven't mentioned is that there are also third-person phases that are somewhat reminiscent of Resident Evil. These are 3D action scenes with a fixed camera, which are graphically different from the other sequences. I found them quite beautiful, with realistic graphics using real images, a style that we're not used to seeing. Unfortunately, the controls are far too imprecise. In fact, the movement and aiming are too sensitive. It's a shame because these phases could have compensated for the rail shooter phases. However, they are unfortunately much less frequent. The game is quite long, about 5 hours, twice the length of a movie, so you will need to save your progress, as you can imagine. Bonus content can be unlocked, including small making of videos. I haven't played enough to form a definitive opinion. Hopefully, there are new weapons to unlock because for the moment, it's very repetitive.